Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to keep looking at Gatecrash and we're going to move on and look at Dimir Dementia, which is the blue and black deck. So let's have a look at the deck list here. So we've got 20 creatures, 7 sorceries, 2 artifacts, 2 enchantments, 3 instants, and 26 land. We've got a mana curve off to the side there. Let's just dive in and start looking at the cards. So the foil face rare is Consuming Aberration, and this thing is quite a beast. So 3 a blue and a black for an XX. Its power and toughness each equal to the number of cards in your opponent's graveyard, so actually really nice, scales up really nicely in multiplayer. I suppose it counts everything. So yeah, pretty solid. Whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land card, then mill everything that was revealed. So really strong effect, and yeah, this is kind of what the deck is doing basically, is mill, because yeah, it's Dimir. That's what Dimir did. That's what they did in original Ravnica. So yeah, we might actually have like an actual genuine, honest to god like mill deck here, or at least it is trying to be. I think it sort of gets in its own way a little bit, but we'll see as we go on. Yeah, I think this is just a super solid like casual kitchen table card. Just the fact that that ability triggers every time you cast a spell, potentially going off, more than once a turn, and yeah, as it does, this gets bigger. So this can serve kind of as a win condition two ways. Either it's just going to like mill someone out, or it's just going to become huge and just smash things, because it is counting just cards total, not like creature cards or instant sorcery cards, just all cards. So yeah, I think it's a pretty solid rare to include here, and yeah, I think it's a good inclusion, good foil face rare. Let's move on. Let's have 2 Balustrade Spies, so 3 and a black for a 2/3 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, target player reveals the cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land card, then put all the revealed cards in the graveyard. So this is actually interesting because there's 2 interesting things to say about Balustrade Spy. So firstly, this was kind of like the Dimir spin on mill, is that like you would mill until, rather than a set number of cards, like like mill 5, it was like mill until you found like a land card. Which was it got nicknamed something else. I think it got nicknamed in something like grind or something, like you grind them until you find a land card or something. Which is very, because potentially it could get more than 5. So there's a bit of randomness to it. Like it was a bit of a gamble in how much you might mill, and the God, it was Mind Funeral from Alara Reborn, which had that sort of templating where like they milled until they hit 4 land. So it could be anywhere between like 4 and like, I don't know, like 20 cards you could get rid of with a single casting. So it's toned down a bit here. You just mill them until they find 1 land, and yeah, but the fact it can be on more kinds of creatures, more kind of effects, like the Consuming Aberration. It's a ETB here. Like you wouldn't want Mind Funeral as an ETB, because that'd be crazy. The other interesting thing about Balustrade Spy is this is where I wish I'd done more research while doing the video, is that I think it's banned in, or like restricted in some way in some formats, because it enables like a really, this is like, I'm just going to be upfront. I have no knowledge of like other formats like Vintage or whatever, like, because I'm just not interested in them, honestly. It's just that. But from what I understand, this is used in like some weird like combo deck that it mills yourself out. Like it's a deck that has no lands, so you find a way of casting this and you mill yourself, and you do something by milling yourself, and it's a whole thing. You know what? I'll find a link to it or something and put it in the comments, put it in a pinned comment. But yeah, I just know this card's got a weird legacy. It's used in a very weird way in a very weird deck, which is beyond my casual scrub brain to understand. Anyway, and also it's just a 2/3 flyer for 4 mana, which is fine as well. Then a single Mind Eye Drake, so 4 and a blue for a 2/5 flyer, and when it dies, target player mills 5. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Like big chunky blocker, and then if it does, I think you've got a few, maybe 1 or 2 sacrifice outlets in here, so you can just pop it to get to mill 5. But I think it's just going to be here as a big chunky blocker, honestly. A single Sage's Row Denizen, so 2 and a blue for a 2/3. Whenever another blue creature enters the battlefield under control, target player mills 2. So yeah, this is fine. You don't have a huge number of creatures in the deck, honestly. So I'm not sure how often this ability is going to go off. And like milling 2 is like, pretty weak, honestly. Like I'd say that's. It's it's a free millstone activation, I suppose, but it's not reliable, and also, it's just a 2/3. Yeah, that's all right, I suppose. Single Vidalcan in Trance. So this is interesting. So it's not. It is a reprint from original Ravnica, but it's but it's from M13. It wasn't reprinted into Ravnica. So in a way, it has found its way back into a Ravnica deck. In a way, in a convoluted way. But yes, 3 in a blue for 1/4. Pay 1 blue, tap. Someone mills 2. It's millstone on legs, and it's got a big old booty 1/4, so it can be pretty passive in defense. Obviously, that's what the deck I think wants to do. Obviously, stall out with defensive creature, like slowly like mills an opponent, or you drop the consuming aberration and then go to town with that. A single Duskmantle Guildmage, a blue and a black for 2/2. So one blue and a black. Whenever a card is put into any opponent's graveyard from anywhere this turn, that player loses 1 life. So this turns your mill into life loss, which is that's actually a pretty fun effect, I think. If you popped this effect and then did like consuming aberration, that potentially having like a really good time there. And it has availability 2 cards, a blue and a black. Target player mills 2. So yeah, I think it's that first ability which I think is really good fun, actually. So you don't necessarily have to mill them out. You can make them lose life from milling, which is going to be a lot quicker than milling them out. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. I think that's a pretty fun little pair of effects on this creature. Single Jace's Phantasm, single blue mana for 1/1 flyer, but it gets +4/+4 as long as an opponent has 10 or more cards in their graveyard. So this going up to a 5/5 flyer for any 1 blue mana is like really, really strong, I think. Yeah, you've got to like jump through a few hoops to get to it, but like I don't think it's that difficult in this deck. Like you've got quite a few mill effects. Getting 10 cards into an opponent's graveyard, I don't think would be that difficult. And for this then to shoot up to be like a 5/5, I think is really, really good. I would actually really like there to be more than 1 in here, honestly. So I suppose it is like a mill deck, but it's like I guess that's not the prime win condition. Like milling is just going to help out your other cards, I suppose. We have a single Incursion Specialist, so 1 in the blue for 1/3. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, Incursion Specialist gets +2/+0 until end turn and is unblockable this turn. So this is like a weird card to include. Because it doesn't really strike me as a deck that wants to cast like multiple cheap spells in a turn, and like it has a bit of like anti synergy with the guild keyword, which we'll see in a bit. But yeah, it's an okay card, I suppose. Like at bare minimum, it's 2 mana for like a 1/3, so that's what like Maritime Guard stats, and it has this extra bonus if you have a decentish turn, it becomes a 3/3 unblockable. Sure, that you have to work a little bit for, but like it's a weird inclusion. A single Mortar Strider, 1 blue black for 1/1. When it dies, just goes back to hand. Sure, sure, it's fine. Another kind of like stally creature, I suppose. Just block with it forever and just cast it again over and over. Sure. We got 2 Death Cult Rogues, so 1 and 2 blue black hybrid mana for a 2/2. Can't be blocked except by rogues, which is like a pretty fun bit of rules text. Yeah, so most of the time this is just going to be straight up just unblockable. It's kind of like just blue black Phantom Warrior, really, isn't it? Yeah, I think this is like fine card. There is like also a theme of like some unblockable, like evasion in here because it ties into the guild keyword, which we will get to because it doesn't show up on any creatures; it only shows up on non-creature spells. We've got 2 Din Rover Horrors, so 4 a blue and a black for a 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, return target permanent to in his hand, and then they discard a card. So it does one of my favorite cards. It does Recoil when it enters the battlefield, which is a spell I'm really surprised it has never been like reprinted like with new art or anything. Recoil is all the way back from Invasion, and it is it's this effect like return opponent to owner's hand and then they discard, which is I think a pretty fun card, very very blue black. Yeah, so it's nice having 2 of these that have some way of like basically interacting with the board, and yeah, I think it's fun, and also it's just a big 4/4 creature, isn't it? So yeah, perfectly fine. And then 2 white of Precinct 6, so 1 black for a 1/1, gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your opponent's graveyard. So this is kind of like a smaller consuming aberration, isn't it? Only cares about creature cards, but yeah, it's okay. It's kind of like, it's kind of like a Lurgoyf-esque ability, I suppose. Yeah, this is usually going to be a bit bigger than it has any right to be for 2 mana. So yeah, I think this is again like a fine inclusion. Again, it's like this thing where milling is maybe not the primary win condition, but it's going to help out your other creatures by making them bigger or whatever. And then a single Welkin turn, just a 2/1 flyer that can only block other creatures with flying. So yeah, fine, invasive creature. And then 3 Gutter Skulks, just 1 and a black for a 2/2. Sure, just again, bit of space filler, I suppose. Right, so now let's move on to the non-creature spells and like the actual guild keyword, which spoiler, I don't think is that good, but let's look at it. So, Whispering Madness, 2 a blue and a black. This is the other rare of the deck. So each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discards this way. So like a windfall effect. Little Urza's block reference there. Yeah, so this is like a fine effect, right? And then it has Cipher, which is the guild keyword. So Cipher is, after you cast a spell, you can then exile it and code it onto a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller can cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. So what this essentially is, it's adding this spell's text as a like as a saboteur ability. Saboteur abilities is kind of like a nickname for when a creature gets through and does combat damage to something, you get the effect. Like, so the common is like Scroll Thief, right, or Thieving Magpie. If it gets through, does combat damage, you get to draw a card or whatever. So Cipher, it's kind of not an aura, is it? It's kind of in between in between aura and say just adding text onto a card. So this is what I was saying with the incursion specialist, like the one that if you cast your second spell on a turn, it gets unblockable. So you do get to cast this. It would then count your second spell. But with the incursion specialist, but you need to do it before combat because you need to make him unblockable to get the benefit of this. Like you've already dealt the combat damage, and then you cast this, and it's too late now. You've cast your second spell, but we've already done combat. So yeah, Cipher is this. Whispering Madness is okay. I think this is the only one that's okay costed. All the others are a little bit expensive for their effects, honestly. It's just a very kind of weird keyword, isn't it? Because it's basically doesn't really play to what Dimir do, because it's essentially a combat focused keyword, because you cast a spell, you encode it onto a creature, but then it's so reliant on them getting through and doing combat damage, and you can do that with evasive creatures and stuff, but it just doesn't feel very Dimir to me. It doesn't feel very blue black. I don't know. I kind of wish, I don't know what their ideal keyword be. It's no transmute from original Ravnica, which I think was a really fun, though slightly complicated keyword. And when we went back to Ravnica again and got Surveil, I think Surveil is also perfect for Dimir. This feels very weird, Cipher. I applaud what it's trying to do, but I think in execution it just turned out a bit wonky, honestly. I would love to hear what people think about Cipher in the comments. So we have a single last thoughts. So 3 in a blue, sorcery speed, draw a card. This is what I mean about the Cipher cards. 3 in a blue at sorcery speed, draw 1 card is that's just not a good card. It's just not good. And it has Cipher as well. So whatever you encode it onto, whenever it does, combat damage to someone, you get to draw a card. Sure, turn something into a Scroll Thief, but it's you got to pay 4 mana to get there. I'd rather just have a creature that has this ability already, I suppose. And so you only got one in the deck. You've only got 1 copy of actually all these Cipher cards, so it almost feels like they didn't have a lot of faith in it anyway as a as a mechanic, because it's barely in the deck, honestly. Same with Midnight Recovery. So it's 3 in a black to return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Disentomb is 1 black mana, so we're paying in essentially 3 extra mana just for this Cipher ability to encode it and potentially get 1, maybe 2 extra casts of it. I just don't think it's worth it. A single Shadow Slice, 4 and a black to make an opponent lose 3 life. Again, super, super expensive just to have the Cipher ability on it. It's just, yeah, I just don't think it's just that wonderful, really. Paranoid Delusions is maybe okay just because it's the cheapest one. Like, it's just 1 blue, 1 black. And a player mills 3 and has Cipher. This one is like I say, the Whispering Madness and this one are probably like the only okay Cipher spells. Yeah, Cipher was really all over the place. I don't think like many people really liked it at all. It's like kind of cool in theory, I suppose, but I say in execution it was just a bit wobbly, you know. And then we've got a few extra sort of removal cards here, I suppose. So 2 Death's Approach, 1 black mana. Aura goes on a creature, gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in control's graveyard. So yeah, it's fine. Yeah, say it goes along with all the mill and stuff. You're killing a bunch of creatures, and then this is going to give a big big debuff. So yeah, it's fine. 2 Grisly Spectacles, 2 and 2 black. Destroy target non-artifact creature. Its controller puts a number mills X, where X is the creature's power. So yeah, I think this is pretty fine. Instant speed as well. This is actually pretty okay. Kill a big creature and then they just mill a bunch of cards. So yeah, I think that's a fine inclusion. Again, it plays well to what the deck's trying to do. And then a single Coerced Confession, so 4 and a hybrid blue-black. Target player mills 4, you draw a card for every creature card put into a graveyard this way. So this is also pretty fun. I think this is like a fun little design. And I kind of wish, I don't know, the guild keyword in in an ideal world would be something to do with this, like milling something, and then, I don't know, like you get a creature that gets a bonus depending on what was milled, maybe? I don't know. Because like you could have, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. This has turned into a whole like what could have been Dimir, like just designing cards, but it could have been like, I don't know. You could have had like a Dimir operative, and it could have like hypothetical Dimir keyword like, oh, when a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from their library, draw a card or something. I don't know. Could have been something like that. Something like a keyword that cares about milling rather than the weird Cipher mechanic. And then a single Totally Lost, 4 and a blue. Instant speed, put a non-land permanent on top of owner's library. So yeah, it's kind of time ebb, but for anything, and instant speed. First appearance of Fibblethip, who is, my hot take, the most overrated meme character in all of Magic the Gathering. There we go. I've probably made some enemies by saying that. But yeah, Fibblethip is overrated, and you know it. A single Rise from the Grave, so 4 and a black. You just reanimate a creature and it's a black zombie in addition to other colours and types. This is fine, goes along with all the milling. You mill a creature, get it back, fine. And then 2 Dimir Key Runes, so 3 mana. Artifact, taps to give you blue or black. And then you can pay 1 blue and 1 black to make it into a 2/2 blue and black unblockable horror until end of turn, which is again like pretty good. Like turning into a 2/2 unblockable is pretty good. All these key runes, I know I've said it before, but I do think all these key runes are pretty solid. Even like the ones that aren't so great, like say like the Selesnya one, like are still like okay. Like as far as mana rocks go, I think they're pretty good, honestly. Just because it has the utility of like giving you mana, and then if you need a creature, it can turn into one. Yeah, I just think they're all pretty good. I really like them. And then a single Dimir Guildgate, and then 12 Islands and 13 Swamps. So what could have been? I'd said a whole what could have been, like maybe just Cipher shouldn't exist. But that's maybe a whole different topic and video. I think we should have just like doubled down on the mill. I know that's weird then, because then like the deck then wouldn't have its guild keyword, but like it's not a good keyword anyway. Maybe, I don't know. So alternate rare instead of the Whispering Madness Mind Grind. So X a blue and a black. Reveal cards from the top of the library until they reveal X land cards, then mill everything, basically. So yeah, that could be... and it's each opponent as well, so it scales really nicely in multiplayer. So yeah, this could have been good. Just say, alright, I'm going to sink a load of mana into this. Like, you have to mill until you mill 5 land cards, which, could be quite a sizable chunk of the... I always feel like at the very minimum, you're getting 5 lands, which is potentially really messing up their mana curve. So that could have been a okay alternate rare. And then I say like doubling down the mill, Undercity Informer, 2 and a black for a 2/3, along with Balustrade Spy. This is the other weird creature that's used in the weird combo decks. So one, sacrifice creature, target player reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land card, then mill all those, so you grind for one. And then Psychic Strike would have been nice as well, I think. So one blue and a black, you counter a spell, and then the controller mills two, and it's just such a little simple effect, and like would have been nice to have it like a bit of counter magic, and then also a bit of mill. Just I don't know. So in summary, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's got an okay idea, but it gets in its own way by trying to do the cipher. And I get why the cipher cards are included because it's the new guild mechanic. You've got to sort of show it off. But so you got like 5 cards with cipher, and only 2 of them are sort of okay. I actually would have doubled down and have more of like the paranoid delusions instead, because at least that mills. It's doing what the deck wants to do, I suppose. It's like milling to make other cards better. So yeah, I don't know about this one, honestly. Like, I'm not sure. Like, the Consuming Aberration, like the foil face rate, I think is great if it had more cards like that. But I don't know if this is just a case of like how Dimir was like designed anyway in the set. I think when we get to Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance, all that kind of thing, when Dimir have Surveil, I think that's when Dimir are at their best. I think that's when like the design for them is absolutely spot on. But at the moment, they're still in a weird in between moment. I still think like transmute is a sort of a better mechanic for them. And yeah, just Cypher's just a bit of a letdown. But at least there's not a lot of it in the deck, I suppose. So it's okay. It's maybe just a bit of a letdown because the guild keyword is a little. Yeah, it's a little disappointing, but I'd love to hear what other people think about it. Either about the deck or Cipher as a keyword. So if you've got any thoughts or stories or comments or opinions, stick a comment below, and I'll give them a read. I'll be back next time to look at another Gatecrash intro pack. So until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.